Welcome. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says it has declared a state of emergency on oil production in the country. It's Africa's largest oil producer. It said this was a move that was meant or is meant to increase Nigeria's crude oil production and also to grow the oil reserves of Nigeria. Mele Kyari is the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, and he said this while giving a keynote address at the opening of the 23rd edition of the Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference and Exhibition. It's a week-long activity or conference and activities in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. He made the statement on Tuesday. Now, let's quote him. He said, quote, "We've decided to stop the debate. We have decided to stop the debate. We have declared war on the challenges affecting crude oil production." War means war, he says. It reminds me of some of those war movies we used to watch on VHS in the 80s and 90s. War means war. We have the right tools. We know what to fight. We know what we have to do at the level of assets. We have engaged our partners and we will work together to improve the situation. That's according to Mele Kyari. That's what he said. Now, an OPEC report, that's the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, from May 14, 2024, indicated that Nigeria's average crude oil production rose to 1.28 million barrels per day in April this year. However, Mele Kyari, who is the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, that same month, May, announced that Nigeria's crude oil production is approaching 1.7 million barrels per day. Now, he believes that Nigeria can do 2 million barrels per day, so it's not as far off as some will think. Well, we have Dovish Okojie. He's a management consultant, he's a public affairs analyst, and he joins us tonight to analyze this statement by Mele Kyari. Dovish, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. All right. When you hear Mele Kyari say that he's declaring a state of emergency in oil production or on oil production in Nigeria, what, in your opinion, does he mean?
Well, thank you for having me here. First of all, I just think it's a call for help. That is what I think about that call for an emergency. It sounds like a call for help, if you ask me. And if you observe the Nigerian system currently, a repetition of what we are used to hearing, emergency in the agricultural sector and every other thing. And it's just like a cliche that we hear most times. But then I just think maybe Nigerians should not be too bothered about what he said, because he was discussing with the partners in that oil and gas, an internal thing. And from there, beyond security and other aspects, but going forward, we'll talk more about that. But I just see it as a cry and a call for help.
Well, he made some statements which make me think that he actually is not just calling for help, but is daring those who are saying we're coming for you, because he says, "We have decided to stop the debate. We have declared war on the challenges affecting our crude oil production. War means war. We have the right tools. We know what to fight." It sounds like a man who is ready to fight those who are stealing Nigeria's crude oil. Not really crying for help, per se.
Well, if you ask me, I would just say I don't see it that way, because if you know you have those tools and you can fight these things, and you know that you want to actually face the issues heads on, you don't even need to make a pronouncement. You just do it quietly. If you have the tools, you don't need to make any noise. That's the truth. So the way I see it is it's more like a call for help, because he's the group managing director, okay, of NNPC, and he knows these things. He has the tools and everything. So if it's not a call for help, then do it quietly, because we are tired of hearing these things where people will say, we want to do this, and in the end, don't get it done. And Nigerians are tired of hearing things like that. So I just think it's a call for help, just to spark up a public debate, okay? And now that debate, that intention has succeeded, because now everybody is talking about it. But this is something that we've been speaking on and talking and debating, because he said he's tired of the debate and everything. Well, if he says that, we'll see what comes up in the next 6 months, okay? This is the first half of the year has gone past, and we know how much we've lost. About 7.2 billion, okay, from unproduced crude oil, okay. So we are going to see what happens in the second half. Maybe between now and December, whatever happens, then we cannot take him serious. But for what I see is a call for help, because there are deeper underlying issues regarding this. And I think going forward, we'll discuss more on that.
All right. So do you welcome this declaration? Do you think this is the right step to take to ensure that Nigeria meets its production output quota? Sorry.
Well, talking about a declaration, if you're talking about a declaration, you know, when you talk about state of emergency, our understanding about state of emergency is that you want to move away from the status quo, okay? What is on ground and what is obtainable. Now you want to maybe suspend all provisions that are on ground, you know, and start up something very drastic. So with that, if that is not happening, that is not necessarily an emergency. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. And, you know, I just feel...
We'll try and get a guest connected back as quickly as possible. And network challenges happen from time to time. But of course, we're looking at the declaration of a state of emergency in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, or on oil production rather, by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, and the head of that organization, the group managing director of the company. I remember some yesterday or a day or two ago, the president of Nigeria Senate was questioning, you know, the unbundling of the NNPC via the Petroleum Industry Act, because of issues that are bedeviling that sector. For instance, Senator representing Cross River State, Cross River South, Asuko Ekweong, had raised an alarm of a very contaminated strain of or batch of diesel that is in Nigeria. And some of these things led to that question by the Senate president. So Nigerians are asking, you know, if this NNPCL, as unbundled as it is now, and all the reforms really were necessary. Okay, we have Dovish back. Dovish, are you there? So let's move on to other issues. What factors are, in your opinion, are responsible for the inability of Nigeria to meet its production quota of crude oil?
Well, there are varying factors, okay, but predominant among them is you can talk about oil theft and corruption within the system. Because I feel that Nigeria should be able to meet up with at least, even beyond the numbers the group CEOs mentioned. You mentioned 2 million, but I believe we can even meet up to 2.5 or 3 million per day, even up to 5 million barrels per day if we are serious to what we are doing. So, you know, people are always talking about vandalism of pipelines and all that, and different things happening in the Niger Delta that is disrupting the free flow of proper production. But I feel it's an in-house thing. It's an in-house thing. Because those let's say like hot taps that you have, what do you call hot taps? Those pipes that are attached to normal pipes that are supposed to, you know, take this from, you know, when it's drilled and move it up to the refineries where it's needed. You know, so these are issues of that. So primarily theft, oil theft, organized, in fact, let me put it in quote, organized oil theft and corruption within the system. That is the major problem that we are having today.
What exactly will such a declaration of state of emergency, what will it entail? You know, how exactly will it be carried out? Because declaring a state of emergency is not just enough. Senators say, oh, we're declaring state of emergency in health. Things won't change by just saying state of emergency. You know? So what will such a declaration, what will be the modus operandi of such a state of emergency, and how will it help address Nigeria's crude output shortfall?
Okay, first of all, the government has to be very serious. NNPC itself has to be very serious. The president, who doubles as the Minister of Petroleum, really needs to take some really drastic action. For example, when I said this is a call for help, the declaration is like a call for help. You know, if you observe, you discover that if you observe the current scenario, you discover that there is a loophole, okay, and there's a divide between every aspect of the system that really needs to function. So now, when you want to do that, first of all, if it says it's declared a state of emergency, the security architecture that is taking care of these pipelines and this these oil facilities and all that, the state, the federal government really needs to come in, because Mele Kyari can only maybe deal with the administrative part of the refining and every other thing, and the government brings in the security. So now, if we are talking about getting this serious, because I want to take a cue from the current battle between the Dangote Refinery and the IOCs. You see, first of all, there's a big issue on ground, and this issue is that it seems these things tend to interplay when there's advantage here, a disadvantage comes from the other side. For example, pre-COVID, we were doing about 2.1 barrels per day. Okay, that was pre-COVID, and then we didn't have any local refinery on ground. Okay, we didn't have any local refinery on ground, but we had good amount of production. We're meeting our quotas and every other thing. Fast forward to 4 years after, we now have a refinery on ground. Now production is very low. Consider there's a systematic force playing on ground. And I just feel we are being lackadaisical about the way we are handling this Dangote Refinery issue. Because, in fact, Dangote Refinery is supposed to be, for example, a national project that we should take serious, and we should be very strategic about how we want to. So, when you watch the cry for help coming from the Dangote Refinery, for example, you discover that there's something going on. We are supposed to protect what we have locally. And if you look at it, like I like to look at things from the economic angle, if you look at this from the economic angle, you discover that with that on ground, there's a lot of benefits. So now they prefer exporting crude oil, okay, to foreigners to refine rather than giving it to the local refinery over here. And if you also watch the pronouncements from the group MDCO, you discover that he mentioned that Port Harcourt Refinery, for example, will come to stream. That was December last year.
Okay, Dovish, please hold the thought. I will come back to you to continue your submission in a matter of minutes, and we'll take a break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We still have with us Dovish Okojie. He's a management consultant, public affairs analyst, and we're looking at the declaration of a state of emergency on crude oil production in Nigeria. This by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and through its group managing director, Mele Kyari. And Dovish, in 2022, Nigeria made, the NNPC in particular, made discoveries of pipelines stealing massive amounts of Nigerian crude. I think you remember all the videos and the footage we saw when the TV stations went into the creeks. Some of those pipelines were so long from the inland all the way to the riverside, to the water, and they even had their own terminals in some cases. In 2023, we still had more discoveries. In 2024, several discoveries, 68, 38, so on and so forth, even illegal crude oil refineries. Why have these discoveries not done anything to reduce Nigeria's loss of crude oil production? And also, have you heard that anyone has been prosecuted and sent to prison as a result of those discoveries?
First of all, I saw I remember those videos all over the internet. People were screaming, complaining, and everything. And till today, till this very moment, I saw that as somewhat like an avenue to save their jobs. If you observe, the elections were by the corner. Most of the things that are done in this country are usually political play, just to circumvent certain things or to alter the norm. So I just felt elections were coming. Some persons wanted to prove that they are doing so well and doing all that, and Nigerians were screaming, and some people became heroes overnight. And after then, what happened next? And one thing I want to point out is this: people are very observant. When there's a new sheriff in town, I mean, both from the pinnacle to both the least, from the presidency to the last, Everybody tends to watch the first 6 months. How you react within the first 6 months is always very important. So when people see that, okay, this new sheriff is serious, is going to take actions and all that, and everybody decides and say, okay, fine, we will do this properly. But when they see that they check the body language and they see that there's nothing involved and, it's going to be business as usual, then you see them continue with the status quo. So I've not seen anybody being prosecuted for these current issues. They just make arrests. Sometimes vessels, I even wonder, when you seize vessels, you blow them up. That's wrong. Are they trying to hide certain things? In fact, I think the system is currently protecting oil theft. Like I said, it's not even this petty oil theft from the Nigeria Delta, from the creeks that are the problem. It is organized oil theft. So it's like, if we keep on protecting these persons and keeping them out, and nobody has been, no heads have rolled, and nobody has been held accountable, then it's going to be business as usual. So that's the situation on ground right now.
We'll come back to that point you made about organized oil theft. But in the same 2022, Nigeria's federal government declared war. This is not the first time we're hearing the government declaring war on oil theft or pipeline vandalism. In 2022, Nigeria's federal government declared war on pipeline vandalism, oil theft. In fact, the then Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, inaugurated 8 gunboats acquired for the use by the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps in Port Harcourt. That was inaugurated in Port Harcourt before general surveillance and all that. So what happened to that war? Is it that maybe it's an annual ritual where government to declare war on pipeline vandalism and oil theft?
This declaration of war is just like the repetitive rhyme of the Paternoster, as I may say. It's like everybody that comes in wants to declare a fresh war. And the last war, nothing is being done. And when you talk about declaration of war, there are different ways to it. You can either mediate, or you are taking using brute force, or however the case may be. But in this situation, nothing is going on. It's just mere speculation and stories. And people are tired. And it looks like it's business as usual. So if maybe just like gunboats were deployed last time during Rauf's tenure as Minister of Interior, the same thing may probably come now after this declaration. But people need to see that there are persons held accountable for this, no matter how big or small. And for the group CEO to even say that they have the tools, they know this, they know those that are doing this. Are they being too careful to prosecute these people, or what is the way forward? So I think this is the last declaration of war that it was against food, it was against food, scarcity. But what do we have today? The same thing is still prevailing. The scarcity rolled in to this year, and it's still very prevalent. You see how food inflation is is just like the chief culprit of the inflation that we're currently facing. So, these declarations, I think we need to do more than that, more than, just having face value or surface value, just coming out to speak. And I discovered that most times when all these corporate conferences come up, that's when these declarations come. They just mention these, things that are deleted. I watched the video, and I even saw when he was mentioning some things, I saw the gentlemen and women and ladies at the background, they were all laughing. It's just like it's business as usual. Like you mentioned, until someone is held accountable, until these things are traced, until there's names are mentioned, then I don't know, it's just a declaration of fun, not war.
Dovish, a multi-billion naira pipeline surveillance contract has been given since the time of Buhari till now to a company by the federal government. Why hasn't this, it's multi-billion naira, so one would expect that it'll go a long way to addressing the issue of pipeline vandalism, oil theft. Why isn't that contract help the situation?
No matter the amount of money you pour into a sea, the sea is going to consume it. That is the truth. So it's like, it's just like war. When you have war, for example, while you are trying to bring peace through war, while you are trying to make peace, there are people that don't want that war to end because they know that they are making their own profits through that scenario. So I think it's a matter of being serious. It's a matter of tackling things. I think the Minister of Petroleum, who doubles up those as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, need to really take it, do things, take action. The Minister of State, Mr.
But Dovish, the Minister of State, for the two ministers of state last year, 2023, also said that they're declaring a fight against the crude oil theft.
We are tired of hearing this declaration. We need actions.
Okay.
We need actions to follow these declarations. That is the point that we are trying to make. And we've not let Nigerians see one person, just one, that has been held accountable for this.
I want to take your thoughts, because of time, very quickly. I want to take your thoughts on something Governor Simla Ifubara said of Rivers State. He said last year that he actually criticized Nigeria's federal government for awarding a pipeline surveillance contract for the protection of pipelines, oil pipelines, to one man. He didn't mention the name of the man, but he said the strategy of the federal government won't yield the expected results because an individual, one person, can't have control over the asset in another person's territory. Now, do you think for this pipeline surveillance contract, for instance, there's a need for a change of strategy, or scrapping it altogether?
There's a total need for a change of strategy. And that's strong word the group's MDCO said. He's talking about declaration of war. When you are declaring, during a state of emergency, for example, you suspend the status quo. You suspend what is obtainable at that moment and bring in something fresh that that gives in quick results. So you see, there are different players in the oil sector. You have, aside from NNPC is there, the IOCs are there, communities are there. You need to liaise with different communities because some of them know their places better and the terrains better than others. So that's why when you are solving an issue here, you discover that there's problem on the other side. And just like that, it goes around. So a strategy, there needs to be a different strategy, more engagement with the communities. And let's be sincere with ourselves. The corruption is just too much in that sector. In the oil sector, it's just too much. And I also want to say something quickly. I think we are too focused on oil. What about gas? We should also think about, divesting, diversifying and talking about CNG. We should reduce pressure. We should reduce the pressure on oil. We should reduce the pressure on petrol. We should try gas. We should try other things. And just imagine we are losing the amount of money that we are losing, that we lost in the first half of the year, by 7.2 billion. That's dollars.
Yeah, but Dovish, even the gas producers in the country are having issues. I think NNG, they're even having shortfall in supply of gas, for export. I'm not sure, is it Train 7 or one of those projects? They're also having issues. I can't remember the name now. I hear they're also having issues in shortfall of gas supply. Now,
you mentioned exports. See, the problem now is let us meet our local demands. We should try to meet our local demands. That's the most important thing. Like I was mentioning about before we went on break, I was talking about Dangote Refinery. Imagine a project is something sort of a national project. Like NNPC has a stake in Dangote Refinery. Something sort of a national project. You are starving it of what it needs to move forward. What are we going to benefit from that? And I saw even the Minister of State, Henry Lokubari, some months back was talking about trying to remove VAT on things that concerns gas, and also trying to talk to these guys, these marketers, that they should reduce exports. I don't know what's going on, because most times these guys are more into business. They look at business, getting those dollars for themselves, their business angle, rather than trying to meet up with the demand locally. I think this is where government needs to really step in to put a balance on everything, because it's not looking too good at the moment. If we are to be sincere.
Dovish, I want to take your thoughts on. I mean, we have more oil blocks coming on stream. We've had more oil blocks come on stream in recent months, and one would have thought that even if we have a problem, still we'll see production going up. So what do you think is going on here? The same thing you're talking about?
Well, like Mele Kyari said, he said we can produce 2 million without having extra
rigs.
Yes, extra rigs. So that is to say that you can have as many rigs as possible, but the issue will prevail. You know, sometimes, you know, when you talk about production, there's also production, there's evacuation. Most times it could be that they even produce up to 2 million, you know, in a barrels per day. But how much are they able to evacuate? Imagine our own national resource. People are going to be, they share it before it gets to the next level. These are the issues on ground. So it's not about putting rigs and all that, or not. Just like I saw when they were trying to say they're fixing universities everywhere. If you've not solved the pertinent issues of the one you have on ground, how then do you now create more? That means you are creating more problems. Like I said earlier, we can actually produce up to 5 million per day. But
okay, just quickly, finally, please, Dovish, what role can technology play in addressing this problem of crude oil theft?
A lot. Technology can play a whole lot. There are GPS devices. You can use drones. You can use central system where, you know, in fact, I believe that Nigeria's problem majorly generally is a data problem. A problem of data. I don't even believe the amount of crude you say we produce per day. You know, where's the data to back it up? There's a NNPC, that the petroleum sector in Nigeria is too shady. Technology can be deployed in different ways. These men go out there and see what is obtainable in other places. You know, different sectors of the economy and all that. So it's all right. Technology has a whole lot to play. And
Dovish, thank you so much. So technology has a lot of roles to play, you're saying?
A lot to play.
All right. Dovish, we have to leave it at that. I want to thank you. So you've really done a lot to break the issues down. But I think my key takeaway here is that the big players who are organizing, who are involved in organized crude oil theft need to be brought to book. Thank you very much, Dovish Okojie, a public affairs analyst and management consultant. It's been a delight having you. When we return, we'll talk River State and the latest as far as the political situation there is concerned. Please stay with us.